Have you ever wondered if the car you drive is lying to you? Most people assume that when a global giant claims their vehicle is eco-friendly, there is a mountain of data to back it up. But what if that data was nothing more than a digital mirage? In the late 2000s, Volkswagen launched an aggressive campaign to dominate the American market with a technology they called clean diesel. They promised the impossible. The high fuel efficiency of a hybrid combined with the raw power of a sports car. It was the perfect sales pitch. Americans bought it by the millions. Showrooms were packed. Every vehicle sold carried a promise of a greener future without sacrificing the thrill of the drive. The brand climbed, the awards piled up, and the company pushed toward their ultimate goal of becoming the world's #1 automaker. The world believed the lie because it wanted to. The campaign was a masterpiece of marketing designed to make every driver feel they were doing the right thing. But while the public celebrated, the math behind the miracle was already failing. Physics has its own ledger, and the balance was about to demand payment. Inside the labs, the dream hit a hard wall of reality. The engineers pushed the engines to their limits, but the laws of physics refused to bend. To meet both the high-performance targets and the strict emissions standards, they needed to install costly hardware. This equipment would have added weight, complicated the design, and destroyed the profit margins the executives demanded. The team sat in a quiet room, looking at the spreadsheet. They had two choices: admit the failure and delay the launch, or find a shortcut. They chose the latter. Silence descended on the development floor. The goal shifted from innovation to concealment. They began to draft a hidden sequence of instructions. It was not a fix for the engine, it was a ghost in the machine. A line of code that would allow them to bypass the laws of chemistry while keeping the shareholders satisfied. This was the birth of the defeat device. It was a calculated, deliberate act of sabotage, written in the dark, designed to deceive the world. The engineers knew exactly what they were doing. They were building a digital trapdoor, and they were ready to pull the lever. The software was a digital lie. It lived dormant within the engine control module, waiting for a specific set of conditions. The code monitored the steering wheel, the vehicle speed, and even the barometric pressure. It was essentially looking for the unique signature of an EPA testing dynamometer. When the car sat on the rollers, the software recognized the lack of steering input combined with a steady, simulated speed. The trapdoor clicked open. The car instantly engaged a compliance mode, adjusting the fuel injection and emission systems to slash pollutants to legal levels. The sensors recorded perfect, clean data. The regulators saw exactly what they wanted to see. But the moment the car drove off the platform and onto a real highway, the code deactivated. The controls shifted, the engine unleashed its full power, and the emission systems effectively turned off. In the real world, these vehicles were pumping up to 40 times the legal limit of toxic nitrogen oxide into the air. Every mile driven on city streets was a calculated release of poison, hidden behind a thin veil of falsified software. The car was not just a machine, it was a ghost, constantly switching between the compliant image the law demanded and the dirty reality it was built to hide. For 7 years, the deception held fast. The world saw a miracle of engineering. Volkswagen stock climbed steadily, fueled by record-breaking sales and a string of prestigious environmental awards. They were on the verge of becoming the undisputed #1 automaker on the planet. Shareholders celebrated, executives accepted accolades, and the public trusted the clean diesel badge on every trunk. But while the company enjoyed its golden age, the physics they had tried to cheat remained unchanged. In 2014, the small, unassuming team of researchers at West Virginia University decided to conduct a standard validation test. They were not looking for a conspiracy. They were not looking for a crime. They simply wanted to document the real-world efficiency of the modern diesel engine. They moved with methodical precision, gathering their equipment and preparing to hit the road. They strapped their sensors to a Jetta and a Passat, turning the ignition keys with no suspicion of the digital trapdoor waiting beneath the floorboards. As they pulled away from the curb, they believed they were embarking on a routine academic study. They had no idea they were about to tear the mask off the largest corporate fraud in automotive history. The journey began under the bright California sun. The team drove north, their sensors hummed, and the data stream started to flow. Within the first few hours, the numbers began to climb. By the time they hit the mountain passes, the readings were off the charts. The nitrogen oxide levels were not just slightly high, they were 40 times the legal limit. The lead researcher pulled the vehicle over, convinced that the hardware had failed. They stripped the sensors down, cleaned the intake valves, and checked every connection point against the factory manual. Everything was functional. They recalibrated the equipment and drove again. The result was identical. The data was a jagged, relentless mountain of toxicity that defied every engineering standard they knew. They reached Seattle with a hard drive full of evidence that made no sense. They looked at the displays, then at each other, and finally realized the truth. The cars were not just inefficient, they were weaponized. The facade of clean technology had been vaporized by a simple, long-distance drive. The perfection of the brand was nothing more than a calculated, digital mirage, and they held the proof in their hands. When the researchers published their findings, the silence from headquarters lasted exactly long enough for the regulators to close the trap. The EPA launched a forensic investigation that stripped away the digital facade. In September 2015, the walls collapsed. Volkswagen admitted to the systemic fraud. The fallout was immediate and apocalyptic. Within days, the company's stock cratered, hemorrhaging a third of its total market value. Billions of dollars in wealth evaporated as investors scrambled to exit. The financial toll hit $30 billion in fines and forced buybacks, a staggering figure that reshaped the company balance sheet for years. The CEO resigned in total disgrace as the U.S. Department of Justice stepped in. Federal indictments followed, turning the boardroom into a crime scene. Agents moved in, executing warrants and securing evidence as the company leadership faced the reality of prison cells. The era of the untouchable giant ended in the flash of cameras and the finality of handcuffs. Some executives were led away to face trial, while others scrambled to shield themselves from the reach of the law, marking the violent, irreversible end of their global dominance. While the company paid the price, some of the architects behind the code found a different exit. Several top engineers fled to Germany, knowing their home constitution strictly prohibits the extradition of its citizens. They remain high-level financial fugitives today, trapped within their own borders, unable to cross into any country with an active warrant for their arrest. They are effectively prisoners of their own past, living in a gilded cage of their own design. Their story leaves a haunting question hanging over every modern device. The Volkswagen scandal proved that the most dangerous lies are no longer hidden in offshore accounts or paper files. They are written in lines of code, tucked away in the machines we rely on to get us home. When you look at your own dashboard, do you see a tool or a potential decoy? If a corporation can hack the very air we breathe through a line of software, what else is hiding in plain sight? We are surrounded by digital systems we trust implicitly. Perhaps it is time to ask what other deceptions are currently running in the background of our daily lives. Is this the end of the fraud, or just the tip of the iceberg?